Intelligence services were at the forefront of the Cold War, yet most accounts of international relations after 1945 stubbornly refused to recognize even the existence of the code breakers who actually constituted the largest part of this apparatus. Nor did this amazing cloak of historical invisibility stop with the end of the Cold War. In 2004, following the furore over the role of intelligence in justifying the invasion of Iraq, Lord Butler, a former cabinet secretary, was appointed to undertake an inquiry into British intelligence and weapons of mass destruction. Butler's report into the workings of the secret agencies was unprecedented in its depth and detail. However, GCHQ is mentioned only once in the list of abbreviations where we are told that the acronym stands for Government Communications Headquarters. This is all we learn, for in the subsequent 260 pages, the term GCHQ is in fact never used, and the organization is never discussed. The subject is simply too secret. SIGINT was not simply a Second World War phenomenon. Throughout the 20th century, Britain's code breakers continually supplied Downing Street with the most precious jewels of British intelligence, discreetly delivered in what became known as the Blue Book. Nicholas Henderson, formerly Britain's ambassador to Washington, explains, "All prime ministers love intelligence because it's a sort of weapon. The intelligence reports used to arrive in special little boxes, and it gave them a belief that they had a direct line to something that no other ordinary departments have." It was partly for this reason that British prime ministers never minded spending money on intelligence. Signals intelligence also matters to political leaders because it allows them to hear the authentic voices of their enemies. Although Winston Churchill was the most famous recipient of such material, his predecessor, Neville Chamberlain, was also offered some remarkable insights into the mind of Adolf Hitler. In 1939, shortly after the Munich appeasement, Chamberlain was given an intelligence report which showed that Hitler habitually referred to him in private as der alte Arschloch, or the old arsehole. Understandably, this revelation had a profound effect on Chamberlain. However, constant exposure to secrets derived from the world of code-breaking, bugging, and other kinds of secret listening has the capacity to induce paranoia. Harold Wilson regularly dragged his private secretary, Bernard Donahue, into the bathrooms and toilets of Downing Street. Only there, with the taps turned on full and water sloshing noisily in the basins, did he feel immune to the threat of bugs. A top priority for Britain's technical security specialists during the Wilson years was the installation of the latest scrambler phones at the Prime Minister's holiday home in the Scilly Isles, so he could speak to Whitehall without fear of interception. Doubtless, Wilson would have been delighted to learn that some of his opponents felt equally oppressed by electronic surveillance. When Ian Smith, the Rhodesian leader, visited London in late 1965, he insisted on having some of the more sensitive conversations with his delegation in the ladies' lavatory, convinced that this was the one location where British intelligence would not have dared to plant microphones. Secret listening terrified friend and foe alike. Harold Macmillan recalled the almost unbearable sense of oppression he felt on his visit to Moscow to see the Soviet leader Nikita Khrushchev in 1959. His delegation feared that British codes were compromised, and they were unable to talk freely, even outside in the open air, because of constant technical surveillance. He would have been fascinated to learn that at the very same moment, Khrushchev and his immediate circle also felt increasingly anxious about KGB microphones, to the extent that they dared not speak freely even amongst themselves in their own capital. In June 1966, to his immense fury, President Tito of Yugoslavia discovered that he